Anthony Davis had to be helped off the court tonight in a lot of pain after suffering an injury to his right ankle. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and this is your #1 source for learning about the unique medical side of the world of sports. Anthony Davis seems to have more injury scares than any player I can think of in any professional sport. So it's really hard to judge severity of these types of things based on his reaction, because we've seen a lot of times where it looks like his season's over and he pops back up and things are okay. I mean, they were about to take him off the court on a stretcher, so I think we just have to take these at face value for the mechanism and not really go off of the severity of how he reacts, which hopefully I think is a reassuring sign. Davis's injury mechanism is consistent with an inversion sprain or a low ankle sprain of that right ankle. So here as he comes down, he makes contact with Gobert's shoe, and that provides this external sort of force, this external provocation that his brain is not anticipating as he's coming down to get this ball. His muscles aren't able to fire appropriately quickly enough. The passive stabilizers of the ankle aren't able to control motion enough. And he goes into this severe amount of inversion, that motion where the outside of the ankle comes down towards the floor. This is not the mechanism of a high ankle sprain. And so when we talk about severity of these types of sprains, it's really a matter of the degree of tearing of the ligaments and if there's any associated fracture. There are some criteria called the Ottawa ankle rules that help us determine if an x-ray is needed to look for a fracture based on where somebody has tenderness, and more importantly, if they're able to put weight on the ankle, both immediately and later in a place like the emergency department. But honestly, you really can't judge severity just based on the pain of how somebody reacts and looks. Having seen enough of these ankle sprains, somebody with a bad ankle sprain can react and look in those first few minutes as if they just broke their ankle. These can be extremely painful, so I really don't think we can judge how bad this is based on Davis's reaction alone. Looking at our biodigital anatomy tool here, I've got the traditional kind of low ankle ligaments. And when we think about the severity of ankle sprains and the order in which these are torn, there really is this tendency to sort of move around the ankle from forward to backwards as we get increasing severity and increasing types of injuries. The most commonly sprained ligament, most common one involved, is going to be this guy here in the front, this ATFL, typically injured when somebody's toes are pointed downward when they roll their ankle. As we increase in severity, we involve this CFL, and then pretty rare, the posterior talofibular ligament. Now, as you can see, this bump on the outside of the ankle is called the lateral malleolus. It's the distal part of the fibula. And sometimes we can have fractures of this distal fibula from either the ligament pulling off a piece of the bone, or honestly, just from the impact of that bone hitting the ground if the inversion is bad enough. Another common area we can see fractures is here at the base of the fifth metatarsal, so kind of the base of this outside foot bone. This is actually the area where Zion had a fracture, but whenever you sprain your ankle, you can get a little avulsion where typically a piece of the plantar fascia kind of pops off a segment of the bone. So this is why we get x-rays. There's other bones throughout the foot that can be fractured with a bad ankle sprain. So I'm sure that's the next thing they're doing here with Davis. If we go back to the play here, again, you can see that foot is pointed downward here as it rolls. So that's that plantar flexion. And then we go into that inversion position here with the outside of the ankle really honestly looking like it makes contact with the floor. So there could just be injury to the bone because of direct trauma from the impact on the court. Always remember too that there's other things that can be injured when someone has a bad ankle sprain. You can get injury to the cartilage inside the joint, and so it isn't just as straightforward as having a sprain of the ligaments. Yes, the majority of these are not going to have a fracture. They're going to be just a sprain of the ligaments, and depending on grade 1 or grade 3, we're talking about a return anytime from like a week up to maybe a month to 6 weeks. Traditional ankle sprains almost never require a true surgery, and we only have to do an operation if there's something like a bad fracture or other damage kind of inside the ankle joint. So really right now, even before we have x-rays, it is very hard to predict recovery time. We saw Marcus Smart just last night, seemed like he had practically broken his leg after making some contact with Joel Embiid, limped off the court, and then we heard that he was actually maybe questionable to play the next day. So this could be something that if there's no fracture, tomorrow by All-Star break, Davis wakes up and feels pretty good, or we could be dealing with a grade 3 tear that could have him out for more than a month. And honestly, even having a fracture at the ankle doesn't always mean this is like a multi-month absence. There are some types of fractures about the foot and ankle where you really only need like 6 weeks or so to get full recovery, which could be about the same time frame as something like just a grade 3 sprain. But I'm telling you, you'll see these pictures that look like his ankle is absolutely at a 90-degree angle. And I'm telling you that just the degree of inversion does not directly correlate with how long somebody is going to be out with one of these injuries. We'll await the final word on his x-rays, and I'm sure he'll have an MRI tomorrow as well. We'll try to do an update if we get more information. But for now, I hope that's a helpful initial look at what happened here, the anatomy, and what we can see with these types of injuries. Let me know, as always, any questions or comments down below. And until next time, we'll see you later.